This video contains disturbing content, violent content, jump scares, and sudden loud noises. Viewer discretion advised. How would you die?
Over decades of play, gamers have been conditioned to the notion that there's no such thing as an empty room. But there have been instances where this is actually true. Sometimes, the purpose of this idea is to keep gamers on their toes by making them paranoid, confused, or weirded out.
Players who run into enough empty rooms may overlook or ignore a new one, thinking there's nothing in it, which of course is the one that holds the goodie. Other times, it's entirely unintentional. So here is the top 25 terrifying game rooms.
Endless Staircase, Super Mario 64. The endless staircase prior to the final level of Super Mario 64, combined with the darkness of the staircase beyond and the music, gives an unsettling feeling that would make younger players want to leave the level as soon as possible. In Super Mario 64, a shepherd tone, a noise composed of sine waves that gives the illusion of constantly ascending or descending in pitch, was used in the soundtrack for the endless staircase to provide that unsettling feeling. While there were ways to cheat their way to the top, the overall effect and creepiness served the room as terrifying.
Rumpus Room, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. The Rumpus Room in the Haunted Towers is, well, without a doubt, very creepy. There's a dollhouse that mind screws you if you look through its window. You see the exact same room you're standing in, with Luigi looking through the same window. Then there's a creepy doll whose head rotates 360 degrees, following you. To get the gem from it, you have to run around it until its head unscrews, landing on the floor with a thud, and then disappearing. Then there are some creepy jack-in-the-boxes that have an evil, distorted laugh. Creepy and unnerving at its finest. Juvenile Cirriculum, Ghostbusters. The Juvenile Cirriculum is a quiet area in the library, but is filled with disembodied children voices and eerie handprints all over the walls. The Ghostbusters soon discover a mysterious plush dog with paranormal attributes, which cues the door to slam. Not to mention, the children's voices are never fully explained, as their mumblings do not talk about any murders or disasters. While the room itself does hold a secret achievement, the actual eeriness factor is excellent and definitely puts you on edge. Mannequin Room, Resident Evil 6. The Mannequin Room in Resident Evil 6 is located right after the first battle of Ustenach. This dark room has several tall, disfigured mannequins, some scrubbed with marker, but what's more creepy is why this particular area in this game houses these. The area you visit doesn't really resemble a shop, and all the eyes of the mannequins seem to be colored black, almost as if someone had already been down there. Towards the end of the room, before the ladder, there is a half-torso mannequin with some sort of bag on its head stuck to the wall. The wall shows mysterious and downright disturbing artwork of two eyes and a mouth. What's more is that the two main characters don't say anything about this disturbing room. It's thought the drawings could be done by a Javo, showing its crazed attitude, but that's just a theory. Ghostly Room, Call of Duty Finest Hour. We actually did cover this in our top 45 scariest Easter eggs in games. This room is located in the level underground passage through the door that needs to be blown up. The room itself contains many disturbing pictures of babies, and in the center is a cradle with a ghost boy in it. Hitting the action button actually makes them float and walk in midair. It's also worth noting that despite the eerie music, candles appear to be floating, a toilet is also found to the left, and a giant rat is seen near the stairs.
Bathroom, Slender. People have always stated never to go into the bathroom of the game Slender. The main reason is because the halls are very narrow and the roof is not particularly high. The entire experience leaves you feeling like there could be anything waiting around the corner. In fact, there often is. The other question is, why is there a bathroom in the middle of the woods? There's no pipes, no water nozzles, or even a pool or lake nearby. The obvious answer was to try and make the game feel more menacing and atmospheric, serving to spice things up a bit, with tight-packed corridors as opposed to the outdoor environment you mainly see whilst playing the game.
The doll room is a room in Himuro Mansion in Fatal Frame. The room is lined with tables covered in dolls. Some of the dolls on display are arranged as though they are playing a children's game. And there is a doll in burial clothes, made to look like a rope shrine maiden, which stands in the center, roped off from all other dolls, with sacred rope. The dolls are dedicated to the children who are sacrificed in the mansion's rituals. On the first night, there is a large hole in the middle of the room. However, on the second night, the hole is completely gone. The room serves its purpose for a main ghost called the Crawling Girl, which appears to attack the player.
Autopsy Room, Resident Evil 4. Now, when you're trapped in a room, and you pick up your infrared scope, and then the music starts playing, you know something bad is about to happen. The rows of hanging bodies shouldn't be spelling danger, danger. Instead, the music cues up, and the danger signs become more apparent, because Resident Evil is generally a quiet game. When the player collects a keycard from the dead body, a regenerator awakes from a nearby locked autopsy room. The regenerator breaks down the door and attacks the player. Now, on the first time seeing it, most players would run away because of the creature's disturbing appearance and seeming invulnerability to attacks.
The Mannequin Room, Condemned 2. The apartment complex in the Condemned 2 level features a room with a posed mannequin in the center. If players wandered through the doorway by kicking the chair out of the way, more mannequins would instantly appear behind them. This has become something of a pattern for a while, considering that the first game had the exact same mannequin stalking and surrounding the players in the department store. Nothing is in the toilet room, and if the player was to exit the room, the mannequins would appear behind the player, blowing the light in the process, thus preventing the player from entering again. Basement F.E.A.R. In Interval 3 Infiltration, you'll end up traveling through an underground segment which is extremely dark. There's some unexplained phenomenon, made even more obvious as rats can be seen running away from an unknown source, and when you proceed forward, Alma can be seen running in front of you. The importance of this room is the health booster, but upon the item, she would appear behind you. This whole ordeal leaves you with the feeling, is she still down there? What other horrors lie in wait? Why is the heartbeat sound still playing? Why are the lights still ominously flickering? Do I want to remain down here? Gents restroom, Bioshock. One of the most unsettling parts of Fort Frolic was the Gents toilet in the Southern Mall. Video game toilets in general are scary, but something about the 3 Cohen sculptures in there, stuck in unnatural dance-like poses, with black plastic bags over their heads casting weird twisted shadows in the flickering lights, are terrifying. It's never clear whether the sculptures are indeed people who are still alive, or just statues. The music in this room is just eerie, and you don't hear it anywhere else in the game. It's also worth noting that there isn't really anything special in this room. It's mainly there for show, no special inventory, nothing.
Hell's Hallway, the White Chamber. One section of the White Chamber has you traversing a hellish corridor, which has a giant eyeball and flesh in the wall, and a traffic light above. As you repeatedly walk through the hallway towards the camera, the room repeats. The only difference is the traffic light has now changed colour, and the audio has changed to a constant murmur. Every time the player walks through the hallway, the music gets louder. By the time the traffic light has reached red, the music drowns out every other sound. The eye opens up and starts twitching. More disturbing moaning can be heard, and the music gets louder and more tense. This whole time you're dreading something sinister is about to happen. But when you reach the next room, the music slows to a pace, and the nightmare has ended.
Locker Room, Silent Hill. The player can enter a normal school locker room and hear rattling and banging from a locker. If the player was to open it and a cat leaps out, the cat leaves the room. Then there's a noise. Outside, being attacked. When you revisit the locker room in the alternate school, you'll find the exact same locker rattling, banging, keeps making the noise right up until the second you open it. You'll find it completely empty and soaked with blood. Already unnerved by this, you prepare to leave, and as you begin to take your first step, locker in front of you suddenly bursts open, and a dead body wrapped in a bag falls out of it. Quite the scare for the uninitiated.
The Picture Room, Cry of Fear. Found in the first chapter of the game when the player is in the apartments. If they explored most of the rooms, one of them will be full of photographs of victims that were killed, slaughtered in many different ways all over the walls. Upon examination, the door would get locked and the lights would shut out. Footsteps can be heard, and it's only a matter of time for the player's paranoia to start going wild, thinking of anything they could jump through, like an open window.
Malcolm Betruger's office, Doom 3. Malcolm Betruger's office is located on the level administration. This room is very terrifying. Ominous, eerie music plays. It's lit with candles, and a pentagram is drawn on the floor, and strange, fleshy tentacle-like growth oozes from the walls and ceiling, along with red blood. This demonic growth is first seen in the administration complex, and the player is alerted to it by Sergeant Kelly. The growth's presence is initially subtle, but becomes more and more apparent as the game progresses. The only known item in this room is a PDA room from one of the dead scientists. However, once obtained, imps would spawn on the player. Meat Locker, F.E.A.R 3. This is a high-stress room, so prepare for a few audio cues and timely scares. The Meat Locker is located inside a store called Best Save Corporation, in which hanging carcasses serve a claustrophobic path to the exit. This room also has a demon, which will appear and disappear at random intervals. Your character walks slowly through this section, so you can't run through it. Strange words, symbols, and drawings are seen on the floors. And in the middle of the room, you'll notice a bunch of human bodies hanging from the ceiling, quickly enticing you to get the hell out of there before something bad happens.
Mannequin Room, Nightmare House 2. Throughout the second chapter of Exposure, the player wanders into a room full of mannequin torsos on stands. They don't attack you, they don't make any movements, and yet they manage to become one of the creepiest elements in the game by having a nasty habit of appearing right behind you. to spook you as you turn. The mannequins appear in great numbers, and when the player leaves the room and is in the corridor, more of them would spawn and stalk the player, sometimes even whispering in his ear. One even replaces a friendly NPC who is gesturing you in the following room.
Examination Room. F.E.A.R. Perseus Mandate. The Examination Room is a room found in the expansion F.E.A.R. Perseus Mandate. Inside the room is 2 tables in the center with blood on them. There is nothing of importance. Yet when the player ventures through the door at the far end, they will find themselves in the same room again. If the player ventured yet again through the same door, the room would repeat, this time with more blood on the floor and walls. A hidden scarecrow lies dormant in the floor, and if the player walked through the center, it would attack. When the player finally went through the door a 3rd time, 2 new tables are seen periodically stuck to the ceiling and walls, with the door somehow attached to the floor. If the player walked through the door, they would drop down into a tunnel where the room would vanish.
Kid Room. Ray. The Kid Room is a frightening room, where it is apparently hinted Earth children were abducted and possessed by wraiths. If you look around the room, you'll see words written in presumably blood saying things like, "They can't hear us," or "I want to go home." If the player were to approach the center of the room, shadows of children would fly past. Eventually, possessed children start attacking the player by hurling projectiles. If the player was successful in beating them, the children then sing "Ring Around the Rosie" in a creepy nursery rhyme. It's never fully explained in the game how the children become possessed. And since this moment onwards, these enemies are never encountered again.
The Eileen Room, or more commonly referred to as the Head Room, is a room in the game Silent Hill 4, where you can find a giant, floating, disembodied, twitchy-eyed head of the deuteragonist, Eileen Galvin. The most disturbing part about this room is it's a small room with Eileen staring at the player the entire time, followed by some disturbing ambience that is never heard anywhere else in the game. Why is it here? What does it want? Why does it remain even after you reunite with the real Eileen? There's no explanation given on this matter.
The Mannequin Room. Condemned Criminal Origins. In the 5th level of Bart's department store, you'll enter a small room with demonic music. Several mannequins are standing at the far side of the room. When you proceed further, a flash of bright light ensues, and the mannequins would surround the player. The moment when the lights turn off and you end up face to face with them and encircled by their bodies, it is enough to make you have a nervous breakdown the next time you're in a department store. Shade Room. F.E.A.R. Extraction Point. The Shade Room is an open-walled studio, lined with thin metal shelves housing cans of paint, and with floors that are covered in spilled blood. This room is dimly lit and extremely disturbing, not just because of the music. This room is full of enemies called Shades, which are partially invisible creatures with glowing red eyes that dash about on all fours and slash with their claws. Apart from the small room, you begin to feel like you're always being watched and have no idea where and when they will What's more, the shades themselves don't make any noises, and the light plays tricks on your eyes, making it look like something is there when there really isn't. Ghost Room, Metro Last Light. While driving Regina, the player can stop and investigate multiple rooms. In one of the rooms, the player can find empty hospital beds in the abandoned room. However, you'd start to notice strange figures out of the corner of your eye. The more time the player stays in the room, the more ghosts can be seen. Multiple ghosts, all of which look like they are laying or floating on the beds. While walking between them, one can hear whispers and bottles of medicine will crash onto the walls. On the far end, one can see a surgeon standing with another ghost. It's the feel of growing fear and apprehension that makes this room so unnerving. And it's been reported by many players that they have fled this room in sheer terror. School Hallway, F.E.A.R. 2. In Interval 5 of Wade Elementary School, the player enters a long hallway. Everything seems fine at first, until all the lights blow out and the locker doors start moving on their own accord. The player's character starts breathing heavily, and the entire area is almost complete darkness, save for the occasional bright flashes of the light. Alma's voice can be heard occasionally, and she will randomly appear in front of the player. People are heard screaming, and specters are seen attacking from the corners of the room. The entire area is so disturbing that it gives you this feeling that you're truly alone, and at the mercy of whatever is around you. The Mirror Room, Silent Hill 3. In the 3rd floor of alternate Brookhaven Hospital, there's a storeroom containing a very large mirror. As soon as the player enters the room, the door locks and the player would be trapped. The mirror shows the reflection of the room, beginning to get covered with black tendrils. The tendrils in the reflection soon crawl onto a sink, and then come out of the sink on Heather's side of the mirror. They take over the room, and the room will turn dark red. The player's reflection stops moving at this point, and should the player remain in the room for a prolonged period of time, the effects will eventually kill them. According to the developer, it was stated that Heather's fear of mirrors manifested itself into Silent Hill's Brookhaven Hospital.